Hey everyone, I'm here with Mark Sutherland, well-known Chuckwagon driver from the Calgary Stampede and the WPCA. Mark, how you doing?
Well, we're doing as best we can, thanks.
Mark, can you give us a little bit of a lay of the land of what things look like right now for you and just for all the other Chuckwagon drivers?
Well, yeah, it's a just like it is for everybody. It's a crazy spring for us. Normally we'd be halfway through our spring training, getting ready for the first meet in Grand Prairie, which has been canceled. Um, we're sitting here waiting for other events. As everybody knows, Calgary Stampede was canceled. The first event that isn't canceled right now that is on our schedule is the Ponoka Stampede, which is the July 1st weekend. And realistically, I think most people are expecting it's going to be postponed, which would be the preference to being canceled. So we're kind of in a holding pattern, and it's an uncomfortable situation to be in, that's for sure, as a small business owner.
Well, and just with that, Mark, I mean, what the trickle down effect? I mean, what does it mean? I mean, you got all the drivers, you got a ton of overhead. What do you do?
Well, I think we're a little different than other small business owners in the area because we're livestock. We're a little different than the ranchers because ours aren't going to the Cargills or wherever of the world, which those guys have their own issues right now. We have racehorses. They go on a chuck wagon, and the other purposes for them are few and far between, and they're specialized athletes. So most drivers are just kind of waiting day by day. We're feeding our horses. You have to take care of them. You're a responsible livestock owner, so that means the farrier shows up every 6 weeks, 5 weeks. You got to deworm them. They're not living on grass. They're still, their high protein diet is still required, whether they're racing or not racing. So they're eating hay, they're eating grain. It's there's a bunch of overhead that I think, again, I'm not trying to create a pity party for Chuckwagon drivers. There's a lot of people in a bad situation, but I just think that we're really a niche sport. We're Western Canadian, and there's about 100 guys that can do it right now, and of that, I guess 36 are the caliber of the Calgary Stampede. So it's I don't think anyone's going day by day, but I think guys are right now going about month by month on whether they're going to, I think if there was any avenue to sell their horses to other competitors, there's many guys that would be making that choice right now.
Well, there really is. I mean, we don't have a solution here. We don't have an end in sight. And so, and I guess the trickle down effect too. I mean, it absolutely affects the Chuckwagon drivers, but I mean, all of these communities that you guys visit on the tour for the WPCA, I mean, there's a lot of small business owners that rely on you guys showing up every year. I mean, that's got to have a huge effect.
I would think that the communities we go to, some of them are small and some of them are obviously large, like Calgary. And I would think that trickle down effect is going to be significant. When we roll into town, we bring 200 people, at least, maybe 300, bunch of vehicles. We're buying fuel, we're buying groceries, and these events, no different than the Calgary Stampede. I think I read that it was for Alberta just over 400 million, and for Calgary just under 300 million. I don't know if my numbers are correct, but it's darn close. I know we've done studies, what happens when we roll into town, and that's just us. Now, if the fans and supporters come into the community and rent hotels and go to grocery stores and do whatever people do when they're on a holiday, eat out at restaurants. It's an unfortunate situation that we're in, and I would think that some of the communities, I would think that their events are probably not going to rebound either. It's just another aspect that is being hit again. There's a number of small businesses and medium-sized businesses in Calgary area that are, well, they're looking at the same fate. They're just, they might be here in 2021, but the economy is not going to be what we want it to be in 2021, in spite of when we open it up again, in spite of when we are able to start stimulating it with our own spending. So I think that's one of the issues we're going to have, is that specifically with Chuckwagon racing, when we get into that 2021, we don't rely on prize money. There's really not a lot of prize money. Considering, most guys, if the top money winner, and he wins what used to be $100,000 at the Calgary Stampede, most drivers would have a budget far in excess of that. And when I say that, the top money winner at the Stampede, he might win, $160,000 throughout the entire year in prize money, which again sounds like a bunch of money, but when you're feeding 49 horses and you're like, just one round of putting shoes on a horse, for me, costs about $5,800. It's a big number. And again, I've chosen to do this sport. It's just what I do, and I run it like a business. And I think what people are going to be shocked at is when the Calgary Stampede does come back around, there's going to be guys that do run this Chuckwagon outfit like a business, and they're just not going to be there. You can't survive if you're a business and you have no revenue and you carry your overhead. It's you just can't survive.
No, it's unfortunate. And it's simple math. So where do we go from here, Mark? I mean, any ideas or suggestions? And I mean, this is for all those small business owners out there that are in the same situation. I mean, I know there's no right or wrong answer. I mean, but any advice you could provide?
Well, I'm moving slowly in my decision making. I'm thinking it out. I am waiting for the decisions to be made that that will affect me either positively or negatively. And I'm doing it while still watching my budget. And I think that's what I think, people need to recognize, that, I'm not trying to survive financially to race in 2021. I'm not just trying to survive, keep my business alive, just to prove that I could do it, in this economy and with this pandemic. So I think people should probably take long, hard looks at it and decide, what are we going to do in 2022? It's great to see if we can survive this, but do I really want to dump all my money into something that is just never, going to be able to sustain itself again? And I think there are some businesses that are like that. And, maybe some business owners think it's a good thing, eliminating some of the competition. I don't share that belief, but I think there are people that have said that. I think this idea that the strong will survive, it's too cliche. And quite honestly, I feel it's ignorant when people say that. It really has nothing to do with intestinal fortitude. It has to do with bank account. And it has to do with priorities. And I guess maybe if you're a 25-year-old entrepreneur, you've got some opportunity to rebound. If you're a 55-year-old entrepreneur, you're going to want to watch your pennies, because retirement's coming close. And I think that's sort of what people are missing. Everybody's in a different situation, and everybody's in a different stage in their life. And, I would like to say that we're just going to come out of this and everything's going to be normal again, but everybody knows that's not true. We don't even know when we're coming out of this, let alone how we're coming out of it.
Well, you know what? You and I were talking before about just having our armor on, and we all, as business leaders, we're like, it'll be okay, we'll get through this. But inside, I think there's a lot of us that are fearful. And I think, what you mentioned, I've heard a lot of people say, there's opportunity to take your competition out. Well, there is that mentality of every man for himself, but I'm with you. I think you know, the old saying of the high tide raises all boats. I mean, I think that we need to support everybody, and I think we'll be better off in the long run.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's so difficult right now to, you know, when you read the news to understand, you know, what packages are available for what size of business. And, you know, I phoned my accountant a couple times trying to figure it out. And, you know, I don't think everybody's getting covered. I don't think they can. It's pretty wide brush. I really don't know. You know, I'm fully confident that a number of small businesses in our communities will just be gone. Now, I don't know what those people will do. You know, maybe they'll start up again. Maybe they'll start another business. You know, I think we're fighting a number of things, as everybody knows, with the oil and gas. You know, the situation it's in, and you know, I happen to be one of those people that relies heavily on that. I have my entire career. You know, I just don't know that the strong will survive, or knocking out competition is a positive way to look at it, because I guarantee you, unless your name's Walmart, you're ready to be knocked out, because you're a nothing compared to corporations that size. And I don't think anybody wants nothing but big box stores to be what's left at the end of this. So, you know, nothing against Walmart, nothing against large corporations. It's just there's a necessity for them, and they provide you know, they provide good products. And I'm talking only retail. But again, there are large plumbing operations. There are one-man operations. There's 3 employee operations. There's 15. So, you know, before this, we needed them all. The idea that we don't need them all after this is I find that curious, because who the heck's going to do the work? And anyone that's cheering to knock out their competition, that might do them well in their bank account. But I assure you that if everybody else's competition's getting knocked out, you're going to be paying a lot more for your other services. Yeah. And, you know, I don't know where these people go. Like, I really don't. You know, this financial aid that's coming from the federal government has to end at some point. It'll be interesting to see. I guess Saskatchewan's opening their borders. Saskatchewan's opening their. It'll be interesting to see, because they're opening their stores up, and partially, I understand New Brunswick is as well. So, I think the other thing, you know, people are scared. Like, I don't really want to catch the virus. I know that there's a really good chance I'm going to, and I know that there's a fairly fair chance I'm going to be okay. But you know, even in the best of times, when this virus isn't going around, you know, no one's going around licking doorknobs trying to catch the flu. Like, why would you want to do it? Yeah. You know, nobody wants to get sick. So that's the reason that, you know, we use ladders to get up and down off of roofs. We don't jump down, because we don't want to visit the hospital in the best of times. So, you know, I think there's just so much going on right now, and I think it's okay for people to be disappointed. I fully expected the Calgary Stampede to be canceled. And quite honestly, I wasn't comfortable, given the current situation, which I recognize. A lot of the arguments are that Stampede could have waited longer. You know, as far as competitors go, we needed to know to start training. Otherwise, you know, our horses wouldn't have been in shape, and it wouldn't have been safe to run them. And that's fine to say, well, if you want to go, just, you know, you should have started training. And then if Stampede was able to go, they could have went. And if not, they would have canceled. But, you know, why put out the money? I don't see a lot of small businesses that are keeping their lights open and keeping their burners hot every day if they're not selling product. And why would you? I mean, you can't. So I think Stampede was disappointing. I expected it, but the day it was announced, somehow it still surprised me.
Yeah.
And
something you didn't want to hear. I mean, You know, it's interesting too. I think that there's entrepreneurs out there, there's business leaders that just can't survive. They just simply can't do it because the books aren't there. And I think there's a lot of business owners that are just going, like you had kind of mentioned, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
You know, why would I take that risk and sink something in that doesn't have a lot of hope in the end? And I guess that's what we're trying to do here is we're just trying to pull the business community together to say, how do we kind of band together and support one another and start spending some money when we can so that we all come out of this in the end.
Well, you know, again, it's cliche, but we better start buying local. We better start shopping local. And again, this, you know, I'm not one to rant against the Walmarts of the world and the large Home Depots, because there's a couple trickle down effects that those large corporations have. You know, they pay people and they employ a lot of people in communities. But I am pretty disappointed with what's happening right now in our cattle markets. I'm sickened that, you know, cattle ranchers are getting the lowest possible price they can, and somehow the grocery stores are getting the highest possible prices for beef we've seen. I don't understand how a provincial or a federal government allows that. I really don't. If any time right now, these things should be controlled. And, you know, I just don't understand it. And, you know, there was a lot of talk about Lysol and toilet paper. Where the hell's the talk about our food? You know, we need to look at that. And so, you know, those are things that we need to do. You know, I'm a bit agricultural based. So, you know, to me, what people should be doing is searching Facebook and the internet. There are local farms that are doing it. They're providing with you know, they are providing a safe, good product. And I assure you that it is much cheaper than it is from the grocery store. And we all need grocery stores. I frequent them quite often. I'm just not going inside right now. And I think people really need to be clear where they're spending their dollars. And I think it needs to be, make sure you're supporting as best you can something that's local, where the money is going to stay in the community. And again, if you're going to Home Depot and Walmart and Costco, the people that are getting paid to serve you there, their money's staying in the community. So it's not all about, you know, let's get rid of big box stores. But you know, I think we need to really be focused on where our revenue is going as consumers. I don't know if that's you know, I'm not sure how that applies to wagon racing. Maybe we could, you know, maybe the Calgary Stampede will change their format a little bit, and they'll be able to, you know, they'll be able to allow some of the smaller businesses that are local to Calgary that used to be, you know, you and I are of the age where we can probably remember when, you know, small businesses could afford a chuck wagon at the Calgary Stampede, and it was the, you know, some of those businesses. They kind of set, that's what their entire year was around, was celebrating the Calgary Stampede. And with the Stampede success, I guess that's changed, and I would like to see that. You know, I would like to see that.
I think, Mark, I think the support local is huge. And I think you're like what you just said is bang on. We just have to be aware of where we're spending our dollars. And I think that comes down to even large corporations when they're looking at sponsorship dollars for next year. I mean, you know, keep the Chuckwagon tarp, you know, if you can, keep it in the budget, keep it in the line item, and keep supporting the local Chuckwagon drivers and getting out to the smaller communities. And I think that's what we need to do. So, yeah.
It's, you know, I think whether it's necessary or not, you know, I think the same argument could be made for the 35 sushi restaurants that are in Calgary. I don't believe it's necessary, but I sure like, and I sure miss the opportunity to pick whichever one I want to go to and go to it. So, you know, I think everybody's going to look at that and say, well, you know, do we really need these? You know, do we need this aspect of whatever the government is trying to save, or whatever the community is trying to save? And you know, I think Calgary Stampede is going to be successful next year when it kicks off again. I'm just not sure what they're going to have for chuck wagons, and that worries me.
Well, Mark, I appreciate you taking the time, and I think that you know what, let's stay in touch, and I appreciate you coming on here today, and stay safe, and let's keep talking to each other, because I think if we do stick together, you know, whatever that new normal looks like, I'm a huge fan. I want to make sure that I see all you guys out there again. So let's do our part, and take care of yourself.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You too, Jeff.
Okay. Thanks, Mark.